I'm on the road to recovery in Castle Rock, Colorado. Live from Millville, New Jersey, I'm on the road to recovery. We're on the road to recovery in Morgantown, West Virginia at Mountaineer Field. And live in Scranton, Pennsylvania, I'm on the road to recovery. Here I am on the road to recovery from Berlin, Maryland. Hey, from Caseville, Michigan, I'm on the road to recovery. I'm on the road to recovery at Ann Arbor, University of Michigan.
My name's Ali Severino, and you are watching On the Road to Recovery. I was born in North Jersey. Both my parents had struggled with addiction problems. I think when my mom got pregnant, my dad had just gotten out of rehab. And, you know, my mom, she suffers from some mental health, maybe, issues. So by 2, they were divorced. I ended up living with my mom, and we moved all over. I probably went to upwards of 20 schools in just the first grade. I went to Disney with a friend of our family. When I came home, my mom was gone. She had moved. And so I got on a plane by myself at 7, and my dad was there at the airport to pick me up. A few years go by, and my stepmom left, and I go to camp, and my dad started drinking again. My dad had relapsed. Really soon, I was smoking weed and doing other drugs and drinking. Eventually, my mom and dad got back together, and about 6 months later, I was in foster care. I'm really smoking weed, smoking cigarettes, drinking, doing coke. And I think, okay, my dad stopped drinking, I'm gonna stop smoking weed, I'm gonna be respectful because he's trying so hard to do the right thing. My caseworker picks me up, and when I get home, she leaves, and my dad cracks a beer. He moved to Florida, and I think, like, how am I gonna make friends there? Like, how does one make friends? And so a friend says to me, well, Ali, the way that you make friends is he goes, I went to summer camp one year and I walked around with a joint behind my ear and I made a bunch of friends. So I started selling drugs. Now I'm 15 years old. By 17, I'm totally strung out on oxys. There wasn't a day I ever skipped again. Well, what happened was there was this older guy that lived in the neighborhood, and basically he came to me and said, Ali, can you get rid of these for me? Can you sell, he gave me like 100 Roxys. From then on out, we started doctor shopping, and we went to 12 doctors a month, every single month, and I moved out. My dad knew something was going on. I used to sell my ecstasy at this rave club, and there's one other guy that sold ecstasy at the same club. Well, he keeps calling me, and he keeps buying these drugs for a much higher price than anyone would ever buy them for. So months go by, and I'm in this, apartment, and I go to do this last deal. I go, this is it, something needs to change, I'm moving back home. And I met them at the movie theater, and I jump in the guy's truck, and before I know it, just task force jumped out everywhere. He had been setting me up the whole time. And so I go to juvenile detention center. About a month later, they say that they're gonna direct file me and charge me as an adult. I get a bond. I think this is great. Dad, you need to bond me out right now. I finally have one. It's only 80 grand. I finally got bonded out about a month after that. And I got put on house arrest. So I ended up smoking weed my first day home. Like, I couldn't even resist. I didn't even know how to say no. I literally didn't know how to say no. After all this time, my dad got me a great attorney, thank God, and we kept fighting it, and they finally got down to 3 years in prison. And my judge said no. My judge was like, I'm not doing that to this young girl. And so they came back to me with a youthful offender status and offered me 6 years of probation. The day I got on probation, my dad kicked me out of the house, obviously. He's like so fed up and over me. Pawned my laptop to start selling crack because I thought that was a good idea while on probation for drug trafficking charges, facing 120 years in prison. Just for the first week of my 6-year probation period, I start selling crack. A few things happened, and this is why I believe in a higher power, because I got pulled over with about $300 worth of crack and an oxy bottle that didn't have my name in it that fell out in front of the cops, got let go. I stole a car, got let go. All of this is happening while I'm waiting for a bed in a state-run facility. I'm waiting for something. I go to that state-run facility to try to get in, and I try to use fake urine because I don't want to fail a piss test, and the urine goes all over my pants. Finally, there was a bed open at the Drug Abuse Foundation in Dollar Beach, Florida. I guess I didn't really know what to expect. Friends of mine that had been there before, I thought, like, I literally thought like you went to rehab and it cured you. I had to stay. I violated my probation a few times while I was, the cases had come up while I was in there, so they took away my early term, and if I violated again, I was going right to prison. But these people used to come in every night. Hospitals and institutions would come in, H&I meetings. They sounded like they lived the same life that I was living, this dark, sad, hollow life where you're always like a moment away from death or jail. And everyone would tell me how I was definitely not going to be the one to make it, because I was the youngest person there. I was only 18, and I was the worst patient in the planet. And when my 6 months was over, I had literally nothing. And so I started cleaning houses, and I asked a friend if she would let me sleep on her couch for $100 a week, which she accepted. And then I just started building my life. Oh, my new life has changed so much, right? I always wanted to do something with my life. I just never knew what I was doing with it. So I designed and created a magazine called Fresh Start. A friend of mine from high school calls, and he calls me and he goes, "Allie, do you still have that magazine? Are you still working in treatment? Like, what's up?" I'm like, "Yeah, like, what's going on?" He's like, "Dude, I have so many questions for you." He comes down and we roll around, and I show him the little flop houses and tell him what's going on, and he's like, "Man, this is crazy." He says, I'm gonna pitch this to somebody, and I'll let you know what happens. We start filming what is now known as American Relapse, which is a full-length feature, it's a documentary film. And so after we made that film, I was like, that's cool, and I had just like a regular job at a rehab center making content. And then they go, "Yo, you'll never believe it." I'm like, "What?" They're like, "We got picked up for, a whole 10 one-hour episodes for Viceland." And so for this TV show, it was probably one of the coolest experiences of my entire life. Sometimes I'm like, well, where do I go from here? Because to work in the treatment industry and just genuinely want to help people doesn't work. And hopefully I can inspire people to where they live. It's just as easy as just learning the resources near you and just giving them out to people who need them sometimes, or like giving someone a ride. I don't know. I just really never thought my life would be like this. And I'm so grateful that it is. And I've been sober 11 years now. So basically almost longer than I even used for. And I guess that's why it feels like a different life ago. Even though sometimes it feels like yesterday, sometimes it also feels like a literal past life.